Today, we're joined by Mark O'Brien, New York City developer, luxury broker, and the creator behind some of the most viral real estate and renovation content on social media.
I'm a bit of a craftsman that's sort of trying to restore a disposable world.
What was your first development and what you learned from it?
So the next morning I came to the job site and I look at the foundation wall and it's like this. I was terrified. I was like, what the fuck is that?
You've led millions in development and sales across New York, Greenwich, even New Zealand.
I'm not a giant developer. I'm not a giant broker. I just like to have fun with what I'm doing.
You've built a really serious audience, nearly 400,000 followers on Instagram.
I'm not like trying to do anything other than just have fun and video it. So I love just taking whatever the situation is and making the most of it.
Mark, it's great to have you on the show.
Hey, Aaron, how are you? Good to have you as well.
I'm fantastic. Stoked to have you here. You've got your hands in quite a few buckets. Would love to start out with, how do you describe what you do for a living to people when they ask at this point in your career?
I think I'm a bit of a craftsman that's sort of trying to restore a disposable world is sometimes how I feel. Like the reactions that I get from doing stuff that I just think is fun. Wow, that's how, taking that so overwhelming to people. And I'm like, I don't know, I can't really imagine doing anything else or doing it differently. So yeah, I like to maintain and fix old things, more fix old things, like these old brownstones in New York City. I mean, it was a goal of mine when I was in college to buy a brownstone. And I remember talking to my girlfriend at the time's father, and I said, I don't want to buy something out in Westchester County. I want to go right to New York City, to the West Village, and buy a brownstone. I was like a dopey kid. And he was like, well, they're pretty expensive. They're like $1 million. and that's like the crux of it. Like, oh, never say never. Always, it's just like, yeah, go for it. Why not? If I'd started back then, imagine.
Is this the current life you're living? Is this the life you imagined for yourself in your 20s?
God, no. I grew up very sort of middle America in New Jersey. My father worked for, my joke is my father worked for Penny's, J.C. Penney. I said that in school once. I said, my father, they went around back when you could go around and ask all the kids when they're 6 years old, what does your father do for a living? And it was just the father. It wasn't the mother. And I said, my father works for Penny's. And the teacher called my mother like, your son's a bit of a wise ass. And she's like, no, he works for J.C. Penney. Anyway, my father worked for J.C. Penney for 35 years, taking a bus in and out of New York City, and very, very simple upbringing. People also say, oh, he's a rich guy, so that's why he can do. And I'm like, so I love it. Bring it on. When people say I'm a rich guy, I'm not a rich guy. And I think that's what makes it more interesting. So yeah, no, I never could have sort of plotted this out. I've got 5 kids, right? So I tell my kids all the time, just do it. Just JFDI is kind of my saying. My mother yelled at me recently because I did a podcast and I cursed a lot. And my mother called and said, that's not nice. You don't have to curse. Why do you curse so much? It was like, I don't know. It gives me energy. It really does. But I'm trying to cut back on my cursing for my mother. She's 87-year-old Italian mother, Irish father. So just, good, solid background and upbringing. And so no, I was brought up to be, 9 to 5, put bread on the table, provide for your family, keep it simple, stupid was my father's saying always. And yeah, I never had really grandiose plans until, I got out of college, and then, I couldn't really execute on it. And it was like, how do you do that? How do you finance? So I just went to work. I went to work, and my son, for example, is like, well, I don't want to do something I don't want to do. I'm like, well, I'm not supporting that. So, if you're lucky and you can become an artist or a musician or an actor or, successful at whatever it is you want to do. And he wants to be a builder. And so I'm like, it just takes time, right? You just have to stumble a lot, make a lot of mistakes, and try everything. Try, whatever somebody offers you something, try it. So that's sort of, I think, how I got to where I am in terms of, where am I? I don't know. I'm restoring houses. I'm not, curing cancer or anything great, but I will say I'm having a lot of fun. And I think it's because I realize that, life is challenging. Life is tough. It's up and down. It's like interest rates. Where do you think interest rates are going? I don't know. And I don't care, because I've been around for 62 years, and they're going to go up and they're going to come down. And I'm not going to get too bogged down on shit that I can't control, and just try to do a good job with what I have, whether it's my clients, representing them as buyers and sellers, or if it's development and restoring a 200-year-old or 180-year-old brownstone like this one that I'm about to dig into. So no, I never could have plotted this, and I think that's the problem these days, is everybody wants a business plan, and they can't make mistakes. Everyone's so precious. Can't make a mistake. Imagine if you made a mistake. Like, why would you do, even building? When I first started building, it was a bit of a disaster. I didn't know what I was doing, and I was learning on the job. And I had a $3 million house in Greenwich, Connecticut that I was scraped because it was in a flood zone, and built it from scratch. So I made a lot of mistakes, but I fixed the mistakes. That's the trick. I fixed the mistakes. And a friend of mine was like, "So you're not going to do this again, are you?" I was like, "Yeah, why not?" I think a lot of people get scared off by the drama and if you make a mistake, oh my God, imagine. So yeah, that doesn't scare me. And actually it energizes me. Like, oh, now I know now I know what to do. Now I can see around that corner. So over the years, I've learned to kind of see around a lot of corners by doing it versus by studying it or working for somebody. Those are all good alternatives. I like the risk. I like the challenge of diving in and figuring shit out as I go.
Yeah. What was your first development, and what went completely wrong, and what'd you learn from it?
It was that one that I just mentioned. It was in Greenwich, Connecticut, 23 Chapel Lane. And my client, the woman who bought it, and I was also a broker. So right from the get-go, 1999, 2000, the year 2000, I started building. And I was 40 years old or so. And I was starting a new industry. I had an executive search business before that for 12, 15 years. It was very lucrative, very successful, but I hated it and I was bored. So I rolled it into a .com. The .com sort of worked. Ultimately it didn't. I was right in that 2-year window when the .com industry fell off a cliff in like 2001, 2002. But it enabled me, because on paper I was worth a lot of money. So I bought a house on the water in Old Greenwich on Rocky Point Road, and I was broke. I was freaking out. And I started, long story short, I started building. And my first project was the one at 23 Chapel. I borrowed against the house that I had no right owning. So I basically rolled the .com debacle down and the mortgage debacle up. Right. I jumped into real estate where I had a $10 million credit line. I had no experience building. And,
Wow.
My house just kept going up in value every time I call my mortgage broker and say, "What's it worth? Can I buy another house? Can I afford to do this development?" The house is $1 million. The development was $1 million, and the profit was supposedly $1 million. So typically it's you buy for $1 million back in 2000. Now it's way different, but you buy for $1 million, build for $1 million, sell for $3 million. It's good. So I'll do that. Yeah. Let me try that. And, I made a lot of mistakes. It took longer than I thought, but I never gave up. I had good people around me, good mentors, but it was, and I used all modular. I did Haven Homes, modular house, Superior Walls was a modular, foundation system. Even the inspector who I became friends with at the time, he hated me. He was like, "What is this? Where is the footing?" I said, "There's no footing. It sits on trap rock." And he's like, "I need to see an engineer report on this." So it was riddled with problems from the beginning because I was trying to re-engineer building, right? So I did all modular. It was a modular fireplace. I did 2 chimneys that were all modular foundation, modular house. And then I finished it in the field. But just all these little nuances of development that I did everything right. I put the slab in, and the slab toes in, holds in the walls so they can't kick in. And then I decided to put a bathroom in the cellar, in the basement. So I had my guy jackhammer out the slab, unknowing to me that that's what holds in the wall from kicking in. So the next morning I came to the job site and I look at the foundation wall and it's like this. I was terrified. I was like, what the fuck is that? And yeah, I mean, it was bad. That, and then digging a hole, and I would hire guys from, laborers, and some dirt caved in on a guy, and
Oh no.
he started screaming that he was paralyzed. He couldn't walk, and he was fine. I brought him myself. I carried him into the truck and brought him to the hospital. I was terrified, not thinking anything other than I hope this guy's okay. And the nurse comes up to me and goes, "You know what's going on here, right?" I was like, "Yeah, he's hurt. Is he all right?" He's like, "No, he's not hurt. This is a money grab. He's going to sue you." I was like, just had anyway. So again, this is why my friend was like, "And you're going to do this again?" And 25 years later, I'm still doing it. But, by the way, the guy was not hurt. It was a scam. I went into the courtroom. I represented myself because I was essentially broke and funding all of this on credit cards and the asset of my house. I had no income because I had just lost my business. And I burned the boats, as they say. And I defended myself, and I was emotional. I was like, you could feel my truth. I said, "Your Honor." I stood up. I said, "Your Honor, this has become," anyway. So I don't want to get into the details because last time I talked about it, I got yelled at. So I better just shut up.
No, that's a crazy story for your first one. Yeah, I'm sure you haven't made those mistakes again. Or maybe you have. Yeah, I mean, like you said, you've now been doing this for 25 years. You've led millions in development and sales across New York, Greenwich, even New Zealand. Curious, looking back, what was your unfair advantage or maybe like early edge when you first got started that maybe you didn't realize at the time?
Early edge in development overall, or moving to New Zealand?
In development, in real estate, kind of what were you able to leverage to set yourself apart and become successful early on?
Gotcha. Okay. So yeah, and I think it's, coincides with New Zealand that I, in 2008 moved my 5 kids and myself and my wife at the time to New Zealand just to do something fun and different, quite frankly. And I think that was I think that's why I was successful or, able to get into development. It's a little bit like being a producer. It's just kind of overwhelming. But if you can organize all these moving parts, and I learned very early, get the right people around you, right? Have a mentor. So I had a mentor early days. And I learned a lot of that in my headhunting business. In, my first job out of college, I sold the first Ricoh fax machine, which is really dating myself, but I guess, it's no secret. So I think it was just, and maybe like partly, and also my upbringing, my father was very strict, Irish Catholic, all Catholic schooling. So, it was just, drilled with, this is the box you're in, stay in this. And I was like, I don't want to be in that box. My father used to say to me, "Why? It's time you get out of the sandbox, son." And I said, "Dad, I'm extending the sandbox. I'm building a bigger sandbox." Well, I never want to get out of the sandbox. And he didn't know if he should have whacked me across the head or listened. And, but that was, I think, part of the, what do you call it? The yin and the yang, right? Of why I think, and look, I'm not a giant developer. I'm not a giant broker. I just like to have fun with what I'm doing. And I can't imagine building condos and, 20 units. Let's buy a building and build turn it into 20 units that all look the same. I mean, they're doing some cool stuff around here on the corner. The old parking garage that I used to park in when I first moved to New York in the 80s, in the mid 80s, is now a condo development, but it's super cool. It's a historic building, and they're doing 6 or 8 units that'll be unique and fun. So I love a project like that, but I just love I love to have fun. I love to be challenged and do interesting stuff. And I think I don't know, I was always kind of like that. Like, I was the first one to join the soccer league, or they started a soccer league. And I know this, it's top of mind because I just did a Home Depot, one of my first, by the way, brand partnerships. If anyone's wondering about my social media and like why, I mean, maybe we can get into it if you want.
Oh, we will for sure get into it in a bit.
So I just did a brand deal. It's really literally like my second brand deal. And because I didn't want to like be a sellout. I didn't know what any of that meant. I was like, I don't know. I'm just doing my thing, and I like it. I don't want to be like, and go to Home Depot. And actually they said, it's the Home Depot. Can you say the Home Depot? I was like, fucking kidding me? I got it. Like the Home Depot. And anyway, so they wanted me to talk about soccer, and I don't watch sports. I'm not a spectator sport guy, because I guess there's something going on with them in soccer that I still am not supposed to talk about, so I won't. But with soccer, let's just keep it at that. So I was playing football as a kid in the league, and some father said, "Hey, who wants to start a soccer league?" And I was like, I put my hand up, like, yeah, I'll try that. So I think, again, stupid story to say that I just like trying different things. I don't know if I get bored quickly, but I like a challenge of something new, different, exciting. And I think that's been my whole life, from when I was a kid playing soccer to selling Ricoh fax machines. And I did that for a year. I won the Quota Club trip. There was a Quota Club trip. They sent you to Hawaii. So I was there for a year. I won the Quota Club trip, went to Hawaii, came back, and they were all excited. They wanted to make me like a manager. And I was like, I'm quitting. I don't want to sell copiers. This is boring. So they were really disappointed. And anyway, so I went to a headhunter to say, hey, help me find another job. And they're like, how about a headhunter? So I became a headhunter and did that for 12, 15 years, but 2 years working for a company. Actually, it was closer to a year and a half working for a company. And then I thought, I could do this on my own. Let me start my own, executive search business. So I bought out the contract that I signed, a non-compete clause and all that. And I basically paid my way to start my own business as an executive recruiter. And then I rolled in consulting. So I did a lot of Y2K stuff back then, back when we thought the world was going to end, when we went from 1999 to 2000 and all the computers are just going to explode. I think it was all a farce, but I made some money on putting, programmers into all these big companies to just check that their computers weren't going to melt, and they didn't. So anyway, to answer the question, I've always liked, a challenge. And I was not a techie guy. I'm hiring C++ programmers, and I didn't know how to spell C++. Kidding. But, so I wasn't afraid to just try shit. And again, put the right people around me. I don't need to know how to program, but I need to know, have people around me that know what that means. And,
right.
And, so I think that's the secret, is just surround yourself with smart people. It's the age-old saying of, hire people that are smarter than you. So that's pretty easy for me.
Yeah. That seems like a common trait among a lot of entrepreneurs I've met and speak to. Would love to talk a bit about your development lens. I want to know, where does your brain go when evaluating a new development or renovation opportunity?
My brain goes to and my brain takes my body to the cellar and to the roof. So the first thing I look at is, actually, at first I walk in, I try to look at the ceiling height, the bones, the original structure, and can I work with it? Does it have anything that's unique or really appealing? So of course, you want 11, 12-foot ceilings in your parlor floor. And if it doesn't have that, I don't go any further. Then I go down to the cellar to see if it has um, naturally high ceiling, like 6 or 7 foot ceiling, which is rare. But if I ever find that, I'm like, this is kind of free money, and just fix it up. You don't have to dig it out. It's a big nut to dig out the cellar. And then I go to the roof just to see what are the views, where's the sun, can I access the roof? Is it worth putting a bulkhead up on the roof and spending that money and expense and time? Because it's not just the cost of that bulkhead and the staircase going up. It's the permitting. It's all the little, a ton of little things that you have to keep in mind when going on a roof. Firemen need access 6 feet on 2 sides, so if there's a fire, they can run hoses. And so, just those are kind of the basics that I look for. And in a neighborhood that's up and coming, of course, right? Like Bed-Stuy is kind of hot now, even though it's I've already been sort of sifted through, I think. But still, even in the West Village, I picked up this house for 5.5, and I think it's going to be a great product. I think I'm gonna add some square footage to it by digging down, pushing out the back, going on the roof of the penthouse, and then restoring what's currently here. So yeah, I think it's just constantly being out there looking at stuff and looking for the right sort of neighborhood. You could say where Trader Joe's opens up, you should buy next to, it's kind of crazy to me, right? Like I just listed a property in the Lower East Side, and there's a Trader Joe's right next door. And one of my salespeople pointed it out, and I was like, yeah, let's put that in like the first line. There's a Trader Joe's, right? Literally half a block away. But anyways, it's all the kind of common sense stuff. And then some of the stuff that's not so intuitive, I guess, is again, the high ceilings and the cellar and the roof and the potential. So I'm always looking at what's the potential within these bones that you're buying for, a lot of money. So there better be some inherent charm in the history and the bones of this. Yeah.
Yeah. What's the biggest amount of hidden value or like hidden opportunity you've ever uncovered in one of your projects?
I just did, this wasn't really, this was value to me, not necessarily to my wallet, but, I bought and developed 62 Green Avenue, which was, owned by an African-American guy, Ernest Critchlow, who was an artist, really cool artist, cool guy. He died like 15 years ago. So he'd been dead for a while. And it kind of fell into an estate. His family was with went into an estate that lingered for years. And it was the property was terrifying. I mean, I walked in with slides on, and the broker said, dude, you can't come in like this. And I said, well, this is what I've got. And it was frightening. But through the cleaning out and the demolition, we tore out a wall that was kind of in the middle of nowhere. And there was one of those, I'm not sure what year, 1920, like freezer, refrigerated cabinets, that we would put your eggs and stuff in. And, it was behind a wall, beautiful, fittings, beautiful wood, intact. It was really in nice shape. I've flashed some video of it, but the video wasn't great back when I first started filming. And, but it was really a find and really quite spectacular. And what got me more so is like that, who would have covered it up? Why would they ever cover that up? It was interesting. And it's like the classic, there's got to be something in here, like money or some kind of safe, but there wasn't. But I do love that about in terms of uncovering value. I mean, look, like this mantle behind me, it's all dinged up and chipped, and people are like, yeah, so we could fix that. I'm like, no, I don't want to fix that. Why would you fix that? That's history. That's memories that I talk about all the time. But I love like the original. The floors in this house are really kick ass. It's what really made me want to buy it when I first walked in. The sun was coming in the back window. I mean, the broker did a good job of showing it at the right time when the sun was coming in the back window, door opened up, and it was just these beautiful heart pine floors, glistening in the sun, and like 180 years old with all the dings. And, look, personally, I would keep these floors just the way they are. But, I bought it for 5.5. I'll probably put like 4 or 5 million into it, probably like closer to 5 million, and sell it for, I'm hoping 17 million in that price range. So all the rock star brokers on Luxury Presence, hopefully right now, are like, they're either like, that guy's dreaming, or I would love to hear from you. Let me know what you think of my price range. And that price range is coming from my buddy Rob, who did a double wide right down the road at 105 Bank Street that I'm sure a lot of you know. And just had a New York Times article listing it at, is it 75 million? I think 75 million. It's
Wow.
It'll be a record downtown. It'll be a downtown record, whether he gets it or not, we'll see. But yeah, so I love just the history of, and the old, I have old Harley Davidsons, this old, pickup truck, 1967. So the aha moments for me and the value is when I just see really cool original stuff. And I'm always, I think it's interesting. I'm not, a lot of us, and I do it a little bit too, just because it's fun and it's on my Instagram. Why would they put these 1980s tiles over this beautiful mantle? Or why would they paint this mantle? So back in the 70s, 80s, because I was here then in the 80s. So I was on the tail end of New York being bankrupt. And, you would come the holidays, like, you're broke. And what am I going to do to make the holidays a little nicer for the kids? Let me paint. Let's get some fresh paint. Let's put these 1980 tiles up over here and paint the mantle that's yellowed from the soot. And it'll make the kids happy, because I'm broke as a, living in New York City, or living in Brooklyn and in the 70s, 80s. So I'm going to do whatever I can to make my kids happy, let's say, and make them feel like, we're doing just fine. So you do stupid shit back then, like, close off a beautiful piece of furniture, paint a marble mantle. So I think it's kind of cool when I find stuff like that and sort of uncover it. The uncovering of all of that is a lot of fun for me. It's, I'd be wearing nicer clothes and a fancy watch and falling into my penthouse pool if I built condos. But now I'm driving around a 1967 F-100 pickup truck that the door swings open every once in a while when I make a turn. But I because it's not right. It's not the smartest way to build. It's not a number. But doing condos is kind of I call it spreadsheet building, right? Like, you do 20 of these, design this, do 20 of them. And there's no mistakes, because you just do repeat the process 20 times. But, I've done that already. I did that in my headhunting days of, 15 years, and it was very lucrative and successful. I fucking hated it. I was so bored. I took up acting, and I loved acting, but I was broke. And I realized that I liked making money and what money could do for me. And I say more than happiness, but that's not really true. I loved, acting. I was happy all the time because it was fun. It was exciting, but it wasn't sustainable. I wasn't going to make any money as an actor. Like, I think you give it a year or 3 and see if you have a breakout. And I didn't. I was far from it. So I went back to my knitting and back to work, but realized that, okay, that's all right. I'll work my ass off 5 days a week, and I'll go skiing in Vermont every weekend. I'll go to Brazil and out west and do cool trips and live on a boat and just do shit, whatever I want to do. I'm going to do whatever I want to do. I'm going to buy a Porsche when I'm 28 and have no right buying it because I should invest. Anyway, actually, speaking of investing, can I just tell us a quick, when I was in my 20s, I like some pyramid scheme, and a friend of mine said we should invest. It's only $200. I was like, sure, $200. And I think it was when I was acting. So I wasn't making a lot of money at the time. And I put $200 into this pyramid scheme, and it didn't work. And to this day, I give my friend a hard time. I said, that $200, tell Tom Kane, the guy who started this thing, I want my $200 back. And he goes, yeah. And we laugh. I said, what my alternative was, I was going to put it into Apple stock. And he's like, really? And I said, yeah, I was kidding. But I did a quick Google and it would have been worth $23 million. So if I took, instead of $200 into some flyer, some stupid idea, and just put it into Apple stock when I was 20, whatever it was, I was 28, I think at the time, or 26. And it would have been worth $23 million. But look, I had an experience instead of having $23 million. I don't know would I rather have these cool experiences of struggling for the last, and still, I love the struggle. I think, and I kind of tell my kids, don't give up, don't try to get away from the struggle. The struggle is life. The struggle is cool. The struggle makes you interesting and makes you, appreciate life, stuff, everything. So, yeah. So that's kind of my mantra is, don't be afraid of the struggle.
I appreciate that. And that's a great story. If only we had time machines, right? I want to talk about your social media a little bit. At this point, you've built a really serious audience. I think you have nearly 400,000 followers on Instagram. You've done an exceptional job at making real estate and development fun and entertaining, which isn't an easy thing to do. When did you realize social media was going to be key to your brand? How did you kind of get in front of the camera at first? Where did social media come into play in your real estate business?
Well, thanks for that, for recognizing, and it's really been a very cool, interesting journey, and it's been essentially 2 years, maybe 2.5 years now. And I think I realized early on, because my previous work experience was to sort of create a better mousetrap. I've always kind of had that, with headhunting. I just wanted to, it's really pretty basic. It's aggregating jobs and aggregating people. And my .com was basically doing that and aggregating jobs and people. And then I had a tech guy build a piece of software to match the two. So a matching software. I had that. Then I thought, and I was working with a tech company that had a bidding tool. So I put a bidding piece of software on top of that. So it was kind of like a monster board or monster.com, monster jobs. I forget what it's called now, or if it's even still around, but it was the right idea. It's kind of like Zillow and StreetEasy. Let's just aggregate, all the listings and aggregate all of the buyers, or give them a platform so they can find us and make it free. And then bang, then we'll hit the brokers over the head years later, which is brutal. But, so I kind of always had that mindset, and so I felt like there's got to be a better way. And it was kind of driven by Zillow constantly putting their hand into our pockets deeper and deeper. And, so I said, all right, how do I become like a lead generating machine? I always thought Ryan does a great job of that. And a lot of brokers are great at it. And I was not. I had 1,700, I had 1,000 followers. I went cheap and I hired a guy, and he got me 700. So in like a year and a half, let's say, it went from 1,000 to 1,700 followers. And I said, all right, I'm going to be dead soon. Let me, I just got to do it and do it right. So I headhunted people. I don't want to say where they came from. I'm sure that but a lot of these people are freelancers, or most of these people are freelancers anyway. So I didn't really take anyone out of anywhere, but I tried to find the best people. I did. And I said, all right, this is what I want to do. And she got me there. Steffi G is my girl. And I think it's interesting, or the best part of this story is this. How do I put this that I don't hurt feelings? But I did this with one of my guys, and he wanted to talk about interest rates in the Fed meeting. And I was like, I don't want to talk about that. That's really boring. But it's important. We got to educate. We got to teach people. I was like, I guess, okay. All right, so let's try it. So we did it. And anyway, it was not my thing. And I went upstairs and started banging on wood floors and pulling up a floor, because I needed to get a floor sample to my floor guy to tell me how much, can you restore these floors if I pull them up? And my girl came up and she was like, what are you doing? And she's filming. I said, I'm just ripping up this floor, and bang, it got 24 million hits. I mean, it was really, and it just made me realize very quickly just do what you want to do. It's kind of what I've always been saying. And to be honest, it's like the chicken or the egg. What came first? I think, I always just kind of did what I wanted to do. I lived on a boat when I got out of college. All my friends were buying condos. I bought a boat and I lived on it on the Hudson River for 3 years, all year round. I moved to New Zealand, started a vodka brand. So I've done a lot of shit that was, a little radical. And here it is, by the way. I still have the vodka brand. It's Broken Shed Vodka. I make it in New Zealand, no additives. It's very clean. It's almost like a health food drink. I make it with whey, like whey protein.
Really?
And no additives is the key. Yeah. Yeah. So I like to take a shot before I go to the gym. No, I don't. I drink responsibly, but it's clean vodka. But back to the point. So I realized that and it's a lot easier said than done to just be yourself, even in acting, right? In acting, I learned I learned how difficult it is to be yourself when your phone goes on, right? All of a sudden it's like, all right, I can talk to you. And then it's like, be yourself. It's like, oh, and most people get goofy and weird. Oh no, that's not right. Let me do it again. They never send it out to the masses, right? They never expose themselves because they're embarrassed. You hate hearing your voice. You hate, and all that typical stuff that we all do. So, get over it. Get over yourself. Get over it and just do it. My saying is always JFDI, right? So my mother's going to yell at me, but it's just fucking do it. When back from headhunting days, that started in headhunting. I used to have these big foam boards and I would write JFDI and I'd stick it in front of one of my guys that I would be training. And I would say, call the guy and see if he's right for this job. And he goes, yeah, I got to figure it out. He's got to see if he's got this. I just want to make sure. I want to call. Just get on the phone, call him. JFD, just fucking do it. So that is that's my words for me. And you get there, you're goofy at first and then you find your voice, whatever that means. And it's really just having the confidence that I don't really care if people make fun of me, or I don't really care. And that helps also with age. I think I find that the older I get, the more I really don't fucking care what people think. Clearly. So, again, a lot easier said than done. I get it. And all of this stuff is a lot easier said than done. And I think, you're sort of cut out for it, or you're not a little bit, but it's got nothing to do with looks. I mean, okay, it doesn't hurt, but plenty of like funny, interesting people that are just, I love watching their stuff because they embrace who they are. Whatever that is, they embrace their body type, their look, their hair, their no hair, their whatever it is. And they just fucking, they embrace it and work it. So yeah. And so it wasn't an overnight success. My kids are like, Dad, how did you become an influencer? I'm like, am I an influencer? It's also weird to me also. It's very, kind of, I don't know. I'm just waiting for the shoe to drop, like the economy, the news, social media. Yeah, it's interesting. I actually I get approached a bit to do these, to do like a reality thing or do my own show, like HGTV. And so I've talked to producers and it doesn't really pan out, because they recently said to me, all right, good news and bad news. We've, everything, the bad news is everything is changing in social media. The good news is it's changing toward you, like older, wise guy, not wise guy, older guy with some wisdom who's been through a lot. So, and they're like, all right, so let's do like a sizzle reel. By the way, do you have like a sexy assistant or somebody on your team that we can, and I was like, and they had me going. So I was like, well, yeah. And then, so I made some calls to a couple of brokers that if they watch this, they'll be like, he called me. And then I said, this is asinine. I called the producer back and I said, you know what? You just said everything's changing. And can you do exactly what's been going on for the last 10 years or 8 years or however long social media has been interesting to people? Like, let's do the same old shit. So anyway, so I think that's that's what I'm trying to do. I don't know. And I'm not like trying to do anything other than just have fun and video it. I love, like, when weird shit goes on, and I love that I'm comfortable with just grabbing my camera and covering it. And most of it winds up on the cutting room floor, as they say. But I think it's, like, can we mix it up? Can we mix it up? Like this, I don't listen to the news. I don't watch sports. I have nothing. I don't know anything about just, it's so boring. Like, life is really boring these days because we're stuck. We're stuck. It's like watching soap operas, old days, watching soap operas or watching TV or watching these series. And we're watching sports, for example. Like, all my friends, everybody, right? Everybody. I'm an anomaly here. Everyone's into sports, and they know every detail about every team and all the stats. And I have no idea. All my friends, my family. And I used to always say to my guys that worked for me, like, why don't you try to be that guy, that 22-year-old who's a rock star, or, legitimately a rock star or a football player? Like, instead of focusing on all of his stats and filling your brain with all that shit, I said, what is it like walking around with all that shit in your head? And that kind of stuck. I love that. But I think it's so true. And I'm the guy that walks into, like a bar talking to the guy who owns it, who's John George, and like, hey, where's John George? You were just talking to him. And who was the other one? Jim Elliott was like he had a bar in Hoboken 100 years ago. And I went in, I rode up on my Harley, and this is the crux, like, to diversify within your, with what you love and what you do for a living or as a hobby. And so I've always liked riding old Harley Davidsons. I pull up in front of this bar in Hoboken, again in the 80s, and he was the owner. I had no idea. And my buddies were all there who were like drooling over him, watching. I walk in with my helmet. He saw me pull in. We talked about Harley Davidsons for like half an hour. I went to the table. My buddies were like, what were you talking to Jimbo about? I was like, Jimbo who? Who's Jimbo? Like, Jim Elliott. He's the lineman for the Giants, and he owns this place. I was talking about Harley Davidsons. Why? Like, he's like, can you introduce me to him? I'm like, no, I'm not going to introduce you to him because you're going to ask him stupid shit, or you're going to say, oh, that was a good game back in Nam. Fuck. Boring. So anyway, long-winded way of saying that I think it's social media it's weird. I think it's going to end any minute. And for me, I mean, it's not going away, obviously, but I'm like, I don't know. I think naturally, I think I want to keep it interesting and keep it fun and diversify. And I want to go to Italy and buy a villa or a building in Italy and restore the thing in Italy because my grandparents are from Italy. My mother, I'm half Italian, so there's some, legacy there. And those are old buildings. You know how many comments I get when we talk about this building is 180 years old. And then I get some people from Europe commenting like, you Americans, you think that shit is old? Like, come here. And I actually was in Moscow before the war started. And like, wow, like that is old stuff and cool, interesting. So anyway, so I want to do that in Italy, the whole truck, the old restoring old Harley Davidsons, old houses, of course, of my old body. And just have fun with it. So anyway, that's all. I think it's just do fun shit. Don't care that people are going to have rude asshole comments, because they do. I get, how many asshole comments I get? A lot. So
I bet.
I kind of like it now. I used to reply kind of nasty, not nasty like I'm angry, like I'll meet you on the corner. We'll fight it out. So nowadays I've got to be careful with what I say, but anyway, that's all. I would say, I mean, hire somebody that can really teach you and help get you over yourself. And that's what it is. I mean, you do a great job on your stuff. Like, you're just, you're natural, fun, so I like to I would look at stuff like that. And I like to say, how do I be like the underbelly of that? Cause I've never been like Flash. Interesting point, or fun fact, as they say on social media, I guess, is I've never lived in a house that I've built. I don't
Mm.
really like new houses. I build it and run out of it as fast as I can and get back into some rat pit with a hole in the roof. Or so I love, again, I've got 5 kids, so I think that's part of it as well. Is just the thought of like my kids messing with the paint or dropping or spilling or ding. I would be like, it's So I love old stuff. I love um, showing it off and being the underbelly. So I think, but everybody has their thing, whether it's, I love Chloe. Chloe does her song and dance stuff, her Broadway. So she's taking her Broadway stuff to real estate, right? I mean, that's it. That's the magic, I think, is to do something that you love and try to talk about real estate without sounding like everybody else.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's certainly the best way to stay consistent is doing something that you love, creating content that you enjoy creating. And I think that it comes across so organically in the content you create. Like you are having fun, you're enjoying what you're doing. And I think that's why so many people love your content and engage with you, because yeah, you just come across as so natural and authentic. And as you've touched on before, that's such an important aspect of being a personal brand online.
Can I just say one other thing to that point?
Yeah,
So
please.
I'm doing, and this is how we get stuck in stuff, right? This is why my comment about, I'm nervous personally about myself and social media, but not really, because I love changing it up, but so I love just taking whatever the situation is and making the most of it. So a year ago when it was snowing, we had a snowstorm, 4 inches or something. My girl was here to film, and we were, all right, what are we going to film today? And we did like a talking head kind of stupid shit. And then I said, let's go to the roof and do something. And went up to the roof, and it's snowing. And I was like, I see people walking by, and I made a snowball, and I kind of threw it very lightly, but threw it. And then I got more energized. And she's filming the whole thing. And I'm getting into it. I'm forgetting. At one point, I say, yeah, we're supposed to be up here talking about development and building and real estate and brokerage. And I was like, fuck that. I want to throw snowballs. And it was just so funny to me. And it was, and it did well. I think it got, I don't know, 12 million or anyway, it did well. And it was just so fun and so unplanned and so, like you said, organic. And I don't know how you switch that thing in your head. I don't know if you can. I think it's just every aspect of life. Like just look for the challenge, look for the fun, look for the excitement, look for the silliness, look for the maybe it's just the it's fun. Just look for the fun. But so thank you for noticing that, because yeah, people constantly try to pigeonhole you as well into this is what we're supposed to do. We got to educate people. Oh, okay. Well, what does that mean? We got to talk about the Fed meeting. Holy shit, the Fed's going to meet again? Do you know how many times I've heard about the Fed meeting at the age of 62? If I hear people talk about that one more time, I'm going to throw up. Really, it's just stupid. It's stupid. It's like the news. It's like it's sad and it's horrible. But just do your shit, do your thing, have fun. So thank you for that.
Yeah, of course. You've built an amazing brand for yourself. It clearly resonates. Would love to briefly touch on the role that your website and your partnership with Luxury Presence plays into your business and your brand. What is it like working with us, and what was it like developing your site?
Yeah, thank you. I should have maybe done a shout out before you brought it up, but and legit, I think Luxury Presence has really been one of the team members that I talk about. It's the Mark O'Brien team, right? And it's, everyone's got a team, but for me, it's kind of just the name of my business, because it's not necessarily the people that are representing, buyers and sellers on my team, but it's everything from my lawyer to my accountant, my bookkeeper, my assistant, my mentors, people that I go to for, builder friends of mine, that I hit on for just updates and, it's just, how would you handle this situation kind of stuff, to, certainly Steffi G, my social media producer and luxury presence, the people that make this whole presentation, seamless and sort of a brochure for me and for my content. And it's, I keep pushing you guys to do more with sort of a search engine. And I know you're always working on it, and put the power back into the broker's hand. So it's not so much with Zillow and Street Easy, but with us and social media and becoming lead generating machines ourselves. And I think luxury presence and having a good professional marquee is super important. So thank you for that. You guys really, and I was a pain in the ass at first. You can ask Maggie. She would, and how I curse a bit, and I would, I'd be, what the fuck? How come I can't? Why, can you? How come I can't? It was just, I would, so she has patience and really a rock star. So thank you for being patient and not saying, go jump in the lake, O'Brien. You're not really worth it.
Absolutely. No, we love working with people like you who know what they want and, hold us to a high standard. That's important to us too. So we're very appreciative of your partnership with us. Mark, this has been a fantastic episode. I've gotten a lot out of it. You've told some fantastic stories. We like to finish these off with just a few rapid fire questions with rapid fire answers. Are you ready to go?
All right, hit me.
All right. What's your most controversial real estate opinion?
That the interest rates are bullshit. It's just something to talk about, something funny, something interesting to talk about. That's really boring, and it is what it is.
What is your most viral video on social media?
Ripping down 1980s tiles that were put over a mantle in a old historic house in Fort Greene, Brooklyn. Yeah, and had fun with a sledgehammer, just bashing these tiles, and it was. And the comments I got about safety glasses. Why don't you put on safety glasses? You're going to hurt yourself. Protect that mantle. I'm like, the mantle's been around for 180 years. I'm not going to hurt the mantle by having some shitty 1980s tiles fall on it. It's fine. And actually, it's part of the history. It's part of the story that mantle is going to tell people 150 years from now. Sorry.
What is your favorite development or renovation that you've ever worked on?
I got to say it was probably the Fort Greene property, just because of the history. Ernest Critchlow was the owner, so it was real Brooklyn history. Cool guy. I got to show it. I'm going to walk around for a second. This is his work. So really, really special, and I loved restoring that house and making it shine again, because it was really in disrepair and bad shape. And if someone doesn't go in and restore it, it just falls into the ground. It catches on fire. It burns to the ground or something similar. So, I do get a lot of comments like, just leave it alone. I'm like, yeah, if you leave it alone, it'll burn to the ground. Like one right here on Bank Street had a fire in it recently, and now it's boarded up and vacant. So, let's be smart. Be smart with these old places, preserve them and treat them with honor and respect so they can keep telling the story to our grandkids.
Cool. What's one thing agents often get wrong when working with you or representing a developer built project?
Good. That is a good question. Is this a setup? Because this is something that used to, for me, be a concern, but now I'm so confident in being a broker developer. It used to be you have to, kind of divide and conquer. Let a developer be a developer. Let a broker be a broker. Sure. I mean, that works as well. I mean, it's obviously that's the way most business is run, through a broker that's strictly a broker. But I think it's super important and helpful to me, at least, and my clients find it helpful to understand what it might cost to renovate this house. So instead of just looking at a property and then going to all your contractors, it's a lot of work to try to pull that together. I have it kind of all in my head or in my wheelhouse of being able to advise my buyers and sellers on what it's going to take to get this house fixed, renovated, restored, whether it's lipstick or a full renovation, and therefore what is it worth today? What would I pay for it as an investor, developer, and what is an end user going to pay for it? So I just think it's super important, especially in New York City, where there are so many old buildings that need a lot of maintenance and a lot of work. Certainly, that's the standalone buildings. I mean, condo co-ops and all of that's a different ballgame, but it's a huge market, these brownstones and townhouses. And I'm psyched to be sort of, involved so heavily in this market and representing people. So anyway, I just think it's a good way to represent buyers and sellers, is to understand better what's involved. I mean, a good example is I work as an owner's rep as well. And at 41 Jane Street, I'm working as an owner's rep in that building, and somebody had replaced a window, and the broker didn't catch it on the DOB Now site. And I don't know, the lawyer didn't catch it doing their due diligence. The broker didn't catch it. Should they catch it? I mean, it delayed my client 6 months,
Wow.
because it wasn't her doing. She bought it through another broker, then used me as the owner's rep to help her build it and hire the right contractors. But we got delayed 6 months because some other unit in the building replaced a window without getting LPC, landmark preservation approval. And it put us back 6 months. It was real money. She was pissed. And she was pissed at her broker and her lawyer for not uncovering this, this bid with the department, the DOB. So yeah, I think it's super helpful. I mean, is it necessary? No, but I think it's helpful. And thank you for asking. I think I'd like to sort of promote that more and talk about that more, and I'm happy to debate it more, because I know what people will say. Well, we're not really focused. What are you more focused on? So, I've got a team. I've got a team of people that help shit from falling through the cracks. So
Awesome. All right, let's wrap it up with the best piece of business advice you've ever received.
Don't be afraid. It was kind of a combination of don't be afraid to take on a big project. Like, you can handle it. Like, the big project is the same as a small project. It's all kind of the same components, only the numbers are a lot smaller and the payout is a lot smaller. But the hassles and the headache, it's classic in brokerage, right? In brokerage, it's like a $3 million place versus a $400,000 place. A $3 million place is easier. $400,000, the buyer is just, every nickel and diming everything because they're on a tight budget. So, I think the sooner you start going big, the better. Being independent, like that was my thing, is to be in business for myself, and have a LLC or a C corp or an S corp. And I've got a couple. I've got an S corp that does my social media. I've got my vodka brand is a different company. My brokerage is separate. My development is separate. And like to be an entrepreneur, I think is it's just this American way. How about that?
Yeah, for sure. I want to ask you one more question, and it's about your vodka brand. I'm curious, what has building a consumer brand taught you about branding, in the real estate world, whether it's your own projects or yourself?
There's no easy way. That's my takeaway. It's like the grass is always greener scenario. I'm sure people are like, oh, he's got a vodka brand. Let me just say straight talk, right? So I put, and it's kicked ass, by the way. I mean, I did the design on the bottle.
I love it.
The story in the back is two guys walk into a shed and come out broke is my take on it, or my add on. So I put $1 million into it in 2009 and haven't gotten a penny out. Worked my ass off. Now I've got people running it. So I'm just on the board of directors and a spokesperson for the brand. But yeah, it was always like, oh, that guy's got a vodka brand. That's so cool. But, it's kind of put me in the poorhouse. It's a little bit why I got back into brokerage, is because I needed to make money to pay for the vodka brand. Development is like slow and steady, big hits every 2 years or 3 years. Brokerage is great, like monthly income. Vodka brand was like, who knows? It's been 15 years or what's someone do the math for me that follows interest rates. 2009 till today. So what's my return on investment or the opportunity cost of that money? So anyway, the short answer is that it's the grass isn't always greener, and it's all difficult. It's all difficult. It's all just, you got to work your ass off. And there's always problems. There's always issues. Development, my God, it's constantly an issue with development. Brokerage, you got asshole clients. It's just brutal. You got Zillow problems, and they're putting our hand too deep into the pocket. Brokerage is pretty cool because it's no risk, right? It's no risk and big reward. Development is big risk, big reward. Building a vodka brand is big risk, big reward. But what are the percentages of people that are successful? So I'm at 45,000 cases on this vodka brand. It takes evidently the word on the street is once you hit 50 cases per year, somebody like Bacardi will buy it, and I'll finally get a payout. But it's a long time, right? And so anyway, it's a matter of brokerage is great. It's great, and just having a vodka brand and having other businesses all just feed the brokers. I think it makes it more interesting. It makes me as a person more interesting to my clients. My big shot clients that are traders and hedge fund managers and big shots. They're not that big. I think it's way more interesting, way more cool to do different things rather than become this master of the universe. And, I'd rather drive a 1967 F-100 pickup truck that's all rusted and then spend a shitload of money on a fancy car. So that's my long answer and short answer, I guess.
I love it. Well, Mark, thank you so much for your time. This has been an awesome episode. I've really enjoyed this one.
These are always fun and interesting. And again, you guys do a good job, and I enjoy your podcast. So well done. And for a young guy, like that's something I would end with. It's just like, kudos to you. Like over time you become confident, and so to be that confident at a young age that's cool. That takes balls.
I appreciate it. But like you, I've made so many mistakes that I've had to learn from, and it's taken a lot to get here. So I understand the journey. For those watching or listening at home, thank you so much for tuning in. Please like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And we'll see you next time on the Luxury Presence Podcast.